All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, welcome Door Grow property managers to the Property Management Growth Show. If you are a property management entrepreneur that wants to add doors, make a difference, increase revenue, help others, impact lives, and you're interested in growing a business and life, and you're open to doing things a bit differently, then you are a Door Grow property manager. So Door Grow property managers love the opportunities, daily variety, unique challenges, and freedom that property management brings. Many in real estate think you're crazy for doing it. You think they're crazy for not, because you realize that property management is the ultimate high trust gateway to real estate deals, relationships, and residual income. At Door Grow, we are on a mission to transform property management business owners and their businesses. We want to transform the industry, eliminate the BS, build awareness, change perception, expand the market, and help the best property management entrepreneurs win. I'm your host, property management growth expert, Jason Hull, the founder and CEO of Door Grow. Now, let's get into the show. Cool. And I'm hanging out here with Sam Womack. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Cool. So Sam, we met at a local mastermind here in the Austin area, which is really cool. And for those that know that I run a mastermind for property managers, I also eat my own dog food and believe in getting coaching and learning and growth and everything else. And wanted to connect with some people locally and make some friends as well. So Sam's one of those friends. So Sam, welcome to the show. And why don't you give people a little bit of background on yourself and what you do and how you kind of got into running businesses and doing cool stuff.
Yeah, no, thank you. First off, I don't do anything near as difficult as you guys. Managing property and tenants, I think, is a feat to be held. And so I props to all you guys out there crushing it in real estate. I cut my teeth in entrepreneurship. Starting at a young age, I was charging like $30 an hour to teach old people how to use their computers, tell their life story. They'd pay me $30 an hour while they sat there and henpecked. It was pretty ingenious. Fast forward into later on in life when the pandemic hit, the business that I was launching just disappeared overnight. The retail died, everything that I've been working on, all the investors pulled out. And I was left with a few grand in my name and a baby on the way, living in a studio apartment with my wife. Had to figure something out, went into supply distribution. And a couple of years later, fast forward, I did about 20 million in revenue as a solopreneur, distributing gloves, masks, COVID test kits, etc. But throughout that time, I dealt with like a really serious health issue. Stress had kind of overwhelmed me, and I ended up with an autoimmune condition in my brain. And through the journey of healing that autoimmune condition that was presenting as like early onset Alzheimer's, it was kind of a mystery. They didn't know what was happening. I developed a deep passion for finding the root of health and the root of optimization and the root of performance. A lot of that came through working with my mom, who's a preeminent physician focusing on anti-aging and regenerative science here in Austin. And so I typed her handwritten notes for a couple years and followed the patient journeys of the elite, because she has a concierge practice for the elite here in Austin. And as I saw what drove change in their lives, I learned a lot about the human psyche, and I learned a lot about how each of our individual unique biologies are very different when it comes to what we choose to do to find optimization or find optimal health. And so now I have a passion for bringing that to the masses. And as the pandemic waned, and as I healed, I became passionate about different physics-based modalities and the different systems in the body and how to reach optimal performance. And now I have a wellness center here in Austin that focuses on performance optimization, as well as maximizing human potential and transitioning the human experience, as well as a research institute called Human Beaming Research Institute, where we present the stories of the truth about health, and where we help bring true health science to light so that people understand what's actually true, not truth that's manufactured by special interests, but truth that's founded in science.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, there's kind of a battle right now, right? We're like seeing it all play out live, real time. We've got this whole Make America Healthy movement. We've got RFK, Bobby, Like, and it seems like there's some major disruptions that are kind of happening right now. And there's a battle, and we're waking up. A lot of people are waking up that, hey, you know, big food, big pharma, big government are not in favor of us being healthy for some reason. And which is kind of scary. So yeah, so
Yeah.
everybody's kind of waking up to this, and I don't know, maybe we're all biohackers now. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think that humanity as a whole is kind of done drinking the Kool-Aid when it comes to what we've been told is the truth. And,
Yeah, because the Kool-Aid has like glyphosate in it, and like also like molds and mycotoxins. Like, it's got bad stuff all over in it. And
yeah,
I'm not saying actual Kool-Aid. This is metaphorical, people. All right.
metaphorically, yes. And when you look at like where, you know, just briefly to when you follow the money and you see that, like, from a business standpoint, one of the largest mergers and acquisitions in history, if you bring it to current dollar value, was when big tobacco bought the food industry. And you look at when that transition happened and you see what happened to our food supply. And we're fish in a barrel that they're just taking their pick of right now when it comes to what we have that's societally acceptable to put in our bodies and societally acceptable to engage in terms of social interaction, et cetera. And it kind of funnels us down this path of high stress, which kind of takes us to today's topic with the nervous system. But yeah, I don't know if you have anything else you want to discuss before we dive in.
Well, I want to point out, so Sam, really sharp guy, as you can tell already. Sam's going to be a speaker at our Door Grow Live conference, and he's going to talk about some really cool stuff that we're very holistic at Door Grow. And so I know that in coaching entrepreneurs and having talked to thousands of property management business owners and coaching hundreds of clients, that it's never really the business or that they're spending too little time in their business. It's keeping them from succeeding in business. It's everything else,
Yes.
especially health, especially their relationships, especially their marriage. Like, these things create a lot of friction for entrepreneurs, and they've got a lot going on. And so like, you're going to be one of these sort of, you're not really talking about property management when you come to Door Grow Live, but I do believe it will be a game changer for them to be able to perform more, be able to get more out of their business, be able to get more out of life, which is the goal of having a business, right? So
Yeah.
it's more freedom and more fulfillment. So yeah. So if you have not yet gone to doorgrowlive.com and gotten your tickets, go do that right now. Go get your tickets and make sure you're at that event. Come hang out with us in North Austin at Round Rock at the Kalahari Resort. It's going to be awesome. All right. Shameless plug completed. Now, Sam, let's get into talking about the topic at hand.
Yeah, no, and thank you. And I'm really excited to get on stage and speak. And I'm going to save some nuggets for the stage. Won't give it all away here. So I'm really excited about that and helping you guys understand what the true root of your full potential actually is, and not from some woo-woo space, but actually understanding like the fundamental simple science beneath high performance and beneath fulfillment in life, because it really does break down to a very simple equation. And one of the key factors is a molecule, and that molecule is actually oxygen. And when your brain is in a high stress state, you would think that your body would give it more oxygen under high stress, right? But under high stress, you actually have vasoconstriction. Your blood pressure rises, blood gets pumped to your extremities. You got to get away from that proverbial bear, right? But for y'all, that bear is the constant wave of tenant complaints, the constant wave of, economic factors, interest rate shifting, stuff like that. And so you have this like constant bear chasing you. And if you're always in that state of fight or flight, your brain is patterned to operate on survival mechanisms and a lower amount of oxygen. And so, and then we get this like male, sometimes male and female, but we get this like this almost masculine energy of like, let's go conquer and do this high stress, high action, push, coffee, stimulant. And we're really performing with our hands tied behind our back at that point because our brain has less oxygen in it. And when you look at the other side of the nervous system, which is our parasympathetic nervous system, you have this increase of oxygen in the brain, which actually raises serotonin instead of relying on that dopamine cortisol roller coaster, right? And so at the base of this is oxygen, which is bringing us life, which is creating ATP, cellular energy. And to put it simply, if you don't find time to balance your nervous system or don't work on implementing tools to balance your nervous system, then you are limiting yourself to lower performance in the short term and decreasing performance in the long term, higher relying on stimulants, higher amounts of just stress and cortisol and dopamine reliance in the long term, which takes away from your ability to connect with others, to find community, to find that real fulfillment that comes in life. And
so what you're saying is we shouldn't just overdose on coffee that here in the US probably has mold in it and makes you not feel good and have to pee way too much. And then not like, take care of ourselves in breathing effectively and getting too little sleep, too much hustle, too much stress.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can get addicted to that pattern because stress actually can feel really, really good when you have dopamine augmenting that cortisol, right? Without dopamine, cortisol feels really crappy. You look at high anxiety, you look at that restlessness feeling where you don't feel good, you're on edge. That's when your cortisol's high and your dopamine is kind of low because you've been exhausting the dopamine stores by just pushing it. Dopamine is supposed to be a short-term reward to get us out of the stress back into a parasympathetic state. Dopamine was never meant to be the consistent ongoing reward because think about it for survival, right? If you're, trying to get away from the bear and you're running, that needs to somewhat feel good in order to get you through that stress. So dopamine kicks in when oxygen lowers in the brain. And then when you get out of the stress, you find that parasympathetic state again, you calm down, oxygen rises in the brain, serotonin rises, which is that more deeper, long-term fulfilling chemical that actually leads to creativity as well. And so, but our society tells us that love is dopamine. It tells us that success is dopamine. It tells us achievement is dopamine. It gives us these dopamine triggers for all of the cultural hierarchy and the cultural validation. That external validation, when you do something to succeed and you show it off, that's a dopamine trigger. Social media, dopamine trigger. So all of these things, society is structured in a way that says dopamine's the reward. Now go buy shit, right? Like almost all the financial economy is driven surrounding dopamine, which is a ultimate losing game because you guys all know that it doesn't really provide that end fulfillment, but since it feels good, we're kind of stuck in that loop. And so what I want to help illuminate is where true fulfillment can be found and help with some kind of practical tools and a practical understanding of this foundational science so that when you're looking to perform at your best, you can give yourself a break and allow yourself to relax. Before you have that next cup of coffee to keep yourself going, take some deep breaths, find some space to relax. Don't worry that your brain doesn't feel 100% on, and give yourself some space to allow that peace in, knowing that you're raising oxygen in the brain. You're opening oxygenation to areas that are going to drive creativity, that are going to allow for connection, that are going to allow for more presence in your body. You'll be a different person in the home. You'll be a different person towards yourself. And so these are critical components of understanding the power of the nervous system when it relates to performance, because high performance isn't just how hard you push. It's about how well you recover and regulate. And it's about how you create that balance that pushes for longevity and pushes for long-term endurance and strength. Because if you want to succeed and grow your business 5x, 10x, 100x, you need endurance. Sympathetic nervous system tone, high stress, does not create endurance. It's short-term bursts. You crash out or you keep hitting the stimulants, and it keeps you in this narrow window of potential. You find that parasympathetic, you find that relaxation, you get creativity going in your brain, you get higher oxygenation in your brain, you're shifting gene expression towards longevity. So it's a pretty powerful tool. And most people think, oh, I don't want to meditate, or I don't want to relax, or they don't feel safe when they're calm. And it's something to just work on shifting your perspective on, because there's true power in that state of peace.
A while back, I read this book. I don't know if you heard of this. It's called The Oxygen Advantage. It's by a guy named Patrick McKeown, and it's got a foreword by Dr. Joseph Mercola. But it's interesting because basically the book is about how he trains athletes to breathe through their nose while working out instead of their mouth. which like exercises the lungs and increases lung capacity. But if we're constantly operating with our mouth open and working with our mouth open, we actually decrease our lung capacity. And so athletes are just burning out really
Yep.
quickly, and they don't have the ability or the capacity to to do, absorb as much oxygen. And so in like working out those muscles, like breathing through your nose, is something it talks about. But that's interesting that when we're not calm, we're not getting enough oxygen, that we're not recovering, we're not regulating our stress, our body probably starts to eat itself a little bit, and
Yeah.
and break down. And then we get addicted to dopamine, and then we, in business, most businesses fail. And really, those that you don't have to like beat all your competitors in a lot of instances, you just need to outlive them. You just need to outlast them, and that endurance aspect. And so, I think we're going to go through some financial turmoil in the marketplace. Things are probably going to get worse before it gets better, as we're cleaning up all this mess financially that is going on in the government. And the US dollar is like, I think, it's been going down from its original value, down and down, down, as they've been stripping value out of it through inflation and giving that money to who knows who. And so I think there's going to be a big transition. It's going to get really stressful. And I think the businesses that are just able to last through this transition and endure, and they're focused on the long game, are the ones that are going to win.
Absolutely.
And there's going to be a lot just eaten up.
Yeah. And if you don't allow that perspective of what you just explained about business to apply to your own self and your health, what got you here won't get you there. And if you want to sustain and succeed through the turmoil, then you need to adapt. And when you have a high stress state, you actually lose BDNF expression in the brain, brain neurotropic factor and brain derived neurotropic factor. And that is our adaptability aspect and factor in our brain. And it literally decreases its efficiency the more chronically stressed we are. And so it's super important. You guys can look up BDNF and understand its role with oxygenation in the brain. And so fundamentally, the more oxygenated your brain is, the greater your access to intuition, memory, and high level thinking. And those are key components to succeeding in business. And when you are in a state of constant survival mode, constant reactivity, constant push, hustle, you lose that space to develop creative long-term solutions. You lose that space to be able to get that spark of inspiration on how to pivot around the corner and see around that corner, or do something a little differently than what other people are doing. And that's why even you look at like Thomas Edison, Benjamin Franklin, like they would love to access that like theta state, just akin to sleep. They would put like a lead ball in their hand over a metal plate, and then as they were falling asleep, it would drop and the ball would hit the metal plate, wake them up, and they'd have their pen and their quill and ink on the table with a candle, and then they'd have their formula or problems they were trying to solve, and then they'd go to solving it, because that was deep parasympathetic state where that creativity was opened up, brain oxygenation was opened up. And me, just like so many of y'all out there, like I'm like, man, I do not like meditating. I do not like calming down, like slowing down. Like I was.
I mean, especially if we're addicted to dopamine and adrenaline, like
exactly,
slowing down feels like a waste of time.
Oh yeah, it does. And so most of you have heard of dopamine, serotonin, and adrenaline / norepinephrine, right? Yeah. That's only 20% of our neurotransmitters. Okay. And you're like, what's the other 80%? Glutamate and GABA, right? Okay. Glutamate is the excitatory neurotransmitter. So that's what animates our body. Think glutamate, animate. But then GABA is what balances that. So GABA helps slow things down, shut things down. And it's kind of interesting that popular culture / society, like you don't hear much about GABA. And the reason why is because they're selling us GABA in the form of alcohol. Alcohol is a huge GABA receptor connector. So it just hits the GABA and you feel kind of calm and relaxed. And so people love alcohol to be social, because you want to be in a slight more parasympathetic state to be social, right? Because high stress doesn't lead to
scrolling social media.
Social media is going to be hitting dopamine, not so much the GABA. But scrolling social media is going to be giving it dopamine, new information. Ooh, new information. I learned something new, like boom, boom, like that constant external input, a stimulus. But when you look at the importance of GABA and you understand that a lot of us aren't making it on our own, which is why we're staying in such a high stress state all day.
Yeah.
And then we take a GABergic like GABA or a benzo or some weed or something that can hit that GABA receptor instead of making our own endogenous GABA. And that's what happens when you're in a parasympathetic state, is your body is creating its own GABA to balance out the brain. And that's what drove me to developing a suite of tools called Peace on Demand that I have at my wellness center, that are physics-based modalities that drop you into that parasympathetic state without sitting there fighting against your brain and trying to force yourself to meditate. And then also with hyperbaric oxygen therapy, that's another tool that induces a parasympathetic state over the course of the treatment. And so I found tools because my brain, I had a hard time controlling with the autoimmune disease that I had and how stressed and on fire my brain was. I had a lot of difficulty finding that space. But without those tools, you can still utilize things like breath work, even if it's just longer exhale than the time you're inhaling, or like 4 seconds in, hold for a little bit and then 8 seconds out or 7 seconds out. That's just like the simplest form of breath work to kind of activate the vagus nerve and slow down that nervous system and get you into a more parasympathetic state. But it's really interesting when you see that some of the most creative people and the most successful people, they're not super high strung. At a certain point, you see a lot of successful people that are high strung, push, hustle. But then you go to that next level, you look at like the Elons of the world, or, some of these people are on that next level. You watch them speak, they're calm. They have this, they go hype on at times to like reach a certain goal, but then they also have that balance. So the key is balance. Don't beat yourself up for when you feel stressed out. Just make sure that before you continue that stress roller coaster, like find some space to find some peace, do some breathing, take a pause, give yourself that chance to take a break. That'll start developing some resiliency in your nervous system so that you don't burn out.
Yeah, it does seem like really high performers are highly adaptable to situations, so they move and adapt quickly. It seems like they are able to maintain some calm, but they also are really quick thinkers. Like their thinking seems to be faster than normal. I notice for me, I get really frustrated with team members when they're not. I'm like, come on, this is super quick. Like, look how fast I can do this. And I'm like, keep up. And so that becomes a little bit of a frustration. I'm like, why is everybody slow? I saw this really interesting thing. My son sent me this, and he's really into football. And I guess there's some quarterbacks that are now training with VR, playing the game in VR, and but they're doing it at 1.5 speed. And so they're getting used to everything being fast, and they've adapted to that. So then when they go and play, it feels like everything's in slow motion. And I was like, wait a sec. I listen to Telegram messages at 2 speed. I listen to audiobooks at 2, between 1.8 to 2 speed. Like, so my brain is probably more adapted to speed.
Yes.
And so I'm able to process. I was just hanging out with somebody who has a lot more money than me, who's the CEO of Real, Sharon Srivatsa. And he talks really fast and he thinks really fast. Like, this guy is sharp. And I'm like, how does he move so fast? But also, and he doesn't seem like stressed out or anything. One of the things I've noticed maybe like sparks this GABA sort of thing is just for me actually reading, not like high-speed audiobooks, but sitting down with a book and processing information. My body's in a calm state. I get into a really deep calm where I'm in a flow sort of state, reading and absorbing and processing information. So I found that can be a really good tool for me. Sarah and I go do your Peace on Demand thing, which is just awesome and a game changer. It's really been helpful for Sarah. It's kind of, I compare it to doing a float session, having a really good float session, which doesn't happen every time you do a float session, but it happens every time you do Peace on Demand. And you don't have to get wet and naked. So, and nothing gets in your eyes or ears on accident sometimes and stings. So that's nice. The other thing I've noticed is just walking. So I went and did EMDR therapy for a while, for like a year with a therapist. Bilateral stimulation, both sides of the brain is kind of the concept. And then I noticed walking is bilateral stimulation. And so that's like a free, very cheap version of EMDR therapy, is just to go on walks. And rather than running, which is like, hey, stress response. But I found that walking is very calming, especially if I'm really stressed. If I go for a walk, it kind of signals to my body, hey, you're okay. You're not being chased by a saber-tooth tiger right now. So your fight or flight can
Exactly.
calm down. So those are the things that work for me. I don't know, but so
Yeah, no,
maybe
those are great
those are
tools.
GABA tools. I don't know.
Yeah. So what those are doing are, like you mentioned a keyword there, and that's safe, right? And so you're creating these environments. One, you're reading a book, gaining new knowledge, and you're
Mm,
not cramming the book from in a stressed out state to try to memorize it for a test, right? Which so much of us get programmed in school at an early age that like reading means like focus hard and stress out over what you're reading. But if you allow yourself to relax into that flow state, and you mentioned flow state as well,
mm.
flow doesn't happen when you're in super super high stress state. Some people will try to say, oh yeah, I'm in flow, because they've got like dopamine coursing and cortisol
Yeah,
coursing,
they're
and they're
just
like,
manic and going
yeah,
crazy.
there's yeah, exactly. But flow is
They're
when,
busy, but they're not productive.
yeah. And when you get productive and when you feel like you're going fast and your team isn't responding fast enough, like you have that adaptability, you have that BDNF that's really efficient in your brain, because you practice going in and out of these states, and you spend a lot of time in this flow and in this GABA balanced state where you're not hyper stressed out. And one thing that also on a biochemistry level explains some of this is, in a sympathetic nervous system response, your body is trying to find as much glucose as possible to burn glucose for fast, quick energy, which creates oxidative stress on the body, which creates inflammation. And then your body has to like go clear out all the junk. But it doesn't care that it's
Mm,
creating a bunch of junk to clear out, because it's trying to help you survive short term. When
yeah.
you're in a parasympathetic state, you're
Does this
looking
make
at
you
a more,
crave sugar then?
yeah, so high stress makes you crave sugar. Whereas parasympathetic state, you're on a more fat burning metabolism. You're not creating as much oxidative stress. You're like expressing longevity genes. You're expressing anti inflammatory genes. There's this, your body literally shifts into almost a different state, not just mentally, but biophysically and biochemistry wise, all throughout your body. Like you adapt based on the nervous system state that you allow. And that's where it does come down to personal responsibility to make the choice to start practicing finding this state that will empower so much more potential for your life than that narrow band of, survival programming and high
Mm,
stress thinking. And then it's better for your health long term too, because you're not just compounding oxidative stress nonstop and then needing those negative inflammatory inputs to make your dopamine stay high, and you can just find that peace. And then you'll find a much higher level of performance, and that flow state will start just happening naturally constantly, which is what's been happening for Jason as he's been practicing these things as well.
got it. Okay. Very cool. So what little teaser, what are you going to talk about a little bit at Dorgo Live that will be revelatory or helpful for people that might be a little bit stressed in their business or are wanting to take their performance to the next level? And I want to point out the difference I've noticed just in clients doing time studies and things like this. Some of my clients we can see in their time study that it takes them in the latter half of the day, like the afternoon, an hour to do stuff that takes them 10 minutes in the morning. They're running out of brain chemicals. They're running out of like neurotransmitter chemicals that they produce while sleeping.
Yep.
They're now no longer productive and efficient, even though they're working really hard and they're really busy. And so yeah, maybe you could tease a little bit. How do we, like, what could we talk about there that might optimize their productivity so that they could actually feel superhuman and get 2 to 3 times the amount of output with the same amount of work or stress or effort?
Yeah, so we're going to go into a little bit more detail on some other aspects of the foundations of performance. So today we focused on nervous system, which is key. But controlling our nervous system isn't just as easy as thinking about it. There's
Yeah.
some environmental factors, there's some lifestyle choices we can make that often we have a really hard time making those changes due to those well-worn grooves, like skis on a slope, that are
Yeah.
really hard to get out of. And so I'm going to help with some simple truths that you'll understand and make it a lot easier to start making small shifts that will create massive change, and that don't have to be stressful or induce anxiety or feel hard. it'll actually feel easy. So I'm going to help you understand some fundamental truths about your biology, and that will unlock unlimited potential.
Yeah, because I think every entrepreneur listening, myself included, I'm sure you as well, have been in those time periods where you feel like you're working so hard and you're investing so much time and energy and you're going nowhere. Like it feels like you're just treading water and you're burning yourself out. And you're like, why am I not adding hundreds of doors? Why am I not growing my business? Why am I not getting ahead? Why am I seeing, idiots get further along than me? Like why is this not working for me? And I think that all plays into that. Like that, everything you're talking about plays into that.
Yeah. And you'll find yourself having permission to make some changes, and the permission is a key aspect of that courage and that bravery to choose something different, to focus on something different. I mean, we all hear where your attention goes, your focus grows, and what you focus on is what you create, all these things. But what does that fundamentally and literally mean when it comes to the way we choose our life experience? And what can we create when our choices change? And how can we be empowered to make those choices? Those are some of the more intricate topics that we'll discuss.
Got it. Almost like shifting from feeling like, hey, I'm giving up something or sacrificing in some way, that in actuality, you're getting more.
Oh, so much more. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So much more.
Yeah. Cool. So those of you listening, I'm guessing you're growth oriented, growth minded. You want to get more, come to Door Grow Live. And come hear Sam talk. So cool. Sam, appreciate you coming here on the Door Grow show. If people are hanging out in Austin or curious about what you're up to, how can they find you? Piece on Demand, Beam, like tell them about your stuff and how people might be able to follow you or get in touch.
Yeah, so we have a small wellness center here. It's a private, high touch concierge space, very comfortable here in Austin, and it's open for business by appointment only. But just go to beamhyperbarics.com and you can book an appointment. If you want to reach out to me, I am Sam Womack on Instagram, or you can send a message through the website. Easier website to remember is beam.do, beam.do. And just reach out, come hang out. You don't even have to buy something to come in. Just hit me up. We'll make sure that I'm around and we can sit on the couch in the back and talk life.
Cool. All right. Awesome, Sam. Appreciate you coming on and excited to have you at Door Grow Live.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. Looking forward to it. I love what you're doing. And I think the steps that you're taking to help empower people beyond just showing them tactics and strategies, but helping them live a more fulfilled and empowered life. That's what it's all about. So thank you for that work you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. We've just noticed, like, we can give them all the right tactics and strategies, but if they don't incorporate the other things, it's kind of like you're trying to run a race up the mountain with rocks in your backpack, like,
exactly.
Or boulders. It's so much more efficient if we get everything else in alignment. And usually it's never the business piece that's really what's holding them back. It's not the tactics. It's mindset. It's their mental health. It's like everything else, their family. Yeah. So we're excited to bring you and some others that are going to just unlock a lot of things for our clients and for non-clients that are coming to Door Grow Live. So appreciate you.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. And just one last thing is, you guys are all doing such a great job too. Like, don't think of this as any type of a criticism or, oh, you're not doing good enough. Like, you're doing such an excellent job with the tools that you were programmed with the upbringings you had, with the environment you're in. So like, just look at it as a chance to learn something new and be empowered by it. But you guys are all doing such a great job. And so keep it up.
Yeah. Everybody's doing the best they can with their current limited access to knowledge and resources that they possess, or whatever. All right, cool. Awesome, Sam. I'll let you go. All right. Good. So if you are a property management entrepreneur and you're wanting to add doors or increase your profit or lower your stress, reach out to us at Door Grow. We would love to help you grow and scale your business. You can check us out at doorgrow.com. And if you're wanting to join our free community, get a little bit more info about us, hang out with some other property managers, go to doorgrowclub.com to join our free community and connect with other property managers and get some cool free stuff. And until next time, to our mutual